impact instead. So thank you very much, Jackie. It is beautiful. And well, Robin was here last week, and Robin preached. Robin hasn't been here for probably 8 years. Well, actually, we counted up. It was like 10 years since Robin was here. Really,
yes,
a long time,
service.
longer than you think.
Once or twice, but yeah,
So Robin had a sermon that probably encapsulated 10 years worth of sermons in one. So I thought I'd take 3 words of Robin's sermon, which also leaves only material for like 5 sermons instead of 500, and try and put that into one. And that's how it goes, really. It's just how it goes.
All in favour.
So the three words that so Robin, it was really good to have Robin here, actually. It was just great. And it was lively, and it was Robin-ish, and also, like, he has done a lot in 10 years.
I don't think he feeds those kids of his.
You don't think so?
You should have seen their hands in the box.
All I can say is they seem to be growing on air in that case. But it was, and one of the things that was really good is that, like, he's got a real purpose to his life. You know, he's got he gives real meaning to people who come back from doing the hardest job that you can possibly imagine, going out and either killing people themselves or seeing people killed and dealing with the aftermath of that and dealing with the worst places in the world, and giving a sense of purpose to those people, a sense of meaning to those people, helping them mend their lives and be whole despite doing that. And talking to him a bit afterwards as well, like the passion he's got for doing that and for relating what he does with what he believes and how it works is just fantastic. And also like the connection that he's kept with, I guess, Yuma in particular, but with other people as well, from Lorne in the congregation, is also super, in the way that he's built that up with other people. And that really is entirely the 3 words I was going to pick that he brought it out at some point in the sermon yesterday, is that it's about purpose, meaning and connection. Mm-hmm. And that really was what all of his sermon was about, and so much of what he does is about. And just to emphasize it a bit, if one thinks of the books, the books you read and the way that soldiers in particular are portrayed in books, they're not usually portrayed as people. They're usually portrayed as obedient, stupid, cannon fodder. Well, we send the troops, and they'll all get killed, and providing it's only 1,000 get killed, it's okay. And that's clearly not how the military value them, and not how Robin values them at all. So that's kind of good to know. Excuse me, I just have a small drink. So I apologise for the type of bottle. It's just
That's
heavy.
sponsored.
Pardon?
That's sponsored.
So so to get back to the sermon, so the psalm is a bit gloomy, actually, and actually, if you look around the lives of people you know, the world at large, the way that countries seem to be falling apart, companies seem to be falling apart, everything is different and moving, and you can patch it up with the World Cup, but it doesn't stop the fact that all sorts of things are going on in the world that are not great. And clearly that was the case for the psalmist as well, that he was just looking around and thinking, well, what is going on out there? Does nobody value God anymore? Does nobody worship? Is nobody good? Is nobody trying even out there? And but unlike at the end of the psalm, where I kind of deliberately just left it hanging as a thing out there, God doesn't leave us hanging. That he gives us a purpose, and the world is trying quite hard to figure out purpose, meaning and connection as well. And if you Google purpose, meaning and connection, you get a lot of stuff, and not much of it is Christian grounded, and an awful lot of it is all over the place in truth, and because it's people trying to explore how they live in their life, what's their meaning, why are they doing things, and of course there are lots of different opinions for that, and lots of people trying to work it out by posting on the internet what they think it is. But actually, the purpose which is the reason why we do something, in our case as Christians, actually it's quite easy, in concept at least, which is God tells us all the way through the Bible that our purpose is to live for the glory of God and to worship Him and to be part of His creation in His glory. Now, what you do with that afterwards is quite hard. But that purpose, that's what God sets out as our reason why we should live. And now, just to divert slightly, at work, about 99% of my activity is trying to actually align people to a purpose or to some goals which follow from that purpose. And this week, or the last couple of weeks, a couple of people have resigned. And sometimes people resign and you think, okay, it's... Whoa! Oh, exactly.
And ended that.
That ended that. But these people resigned for two reasons. One of them because he wasn't being treated as he felt he should be treated, and probably he's right. And one of them because he really felt that the work that he was being given to do and the work that he was asking to do, he couldn't see what the value of it was. He couldn't see why he was doing that. He couldn't figure out the purpose of it. And he's in an area where he's got two bosses. We all have to have two bosses. And the bosses don't agree, and they're not really shooting for the same thing. And ultimately, if you're trapped between that sort of thing, life becomes quite hard, actually, especially if you're junior and you don't really feel you can argue with any of them without worrying about things. And so then when I thought about, well, how does that work with life against this purpose of living for the glory of God and for God? And it struck me that the places where life is hardest are the places where it's difficult to align what you're doing with a purpose that says, I'm trying to glorify God with my life. Mm-hmm. And of course it takes a long time to keep working through all these things and keep changing and keep having dialogue and conversations. But they're the most difficult things. And the way life works, whether it's written down or not, is from your purpose comes a set of goals and things that you're trying to achieve and activities that you're trying to do, and from those comes kind of more tactical, detailed objectives. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. So when I said to Mer and Jackie before we started, like, what's your purpose of playing beautiful music? Because both of them, I dread to think how many thousands of hours between you've put into practicing music, to developing, to coming to the point where they can meet this morning half an hour before the service and really enhance the way that we can worship and praise God. And your answer was, because you said it so much better than I would. Just get Jackie to say. What did you say?
I said that there is more than one purpose, but the first one that I said was because it's a great way to connect with people that I love, like Jackie, and so we get to spend time together doing something we both love, and that connects us, and also to provide a space for people to dwell in and hopefully feel enriched by.
There you go. And from that flowed a goal of making beautiful music, and from that flowed a goal, an objective of, okay, we're going to get together this morning and do things. And my hypothesis is that whether you're doing that explicitly or just in life, what you do is driven by goals and a higher purpose. It's just you might not realise it. But where those purposes are, where what you're doing is not aligned to your purpose, that's when it's hard. And I think, from my own perspective, I find there's a constant correction, let's just say, between a goal that says, well, I want to live life in its fullness to the glory of God, to a selfish goal of, I want happiness. And the two can be very overlapped in many ways. I'm not saying that a life lived to its fullness to the glory of God is not happy, but you can very quickly divert and be very plausible about things that take you to a happy life, but can actually be quite selfish rather than to a true higher purpose. So that is purpose. Then meaning becomes harder still. So meaning is quite difficult, in fact, to define what meaning really means and how it works. And again, if you look on the internet or anyone or ask anyone, what do you mean by meaning? You'll get a lot of different answers. And maybe we should have a favourite psalm day in a couple of weeks' time. But one of my favourite bits of the Psalms is Psalm 8, where it says, when I look at the heavens and the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you care for him? And it seems that, and I can well imagine that you sit looking at a blood moon or the stars or 5 planets, or you go to the planetarium and they show the galaxy in all its vastness, and it's pretty easy to think, well, actually, what am I? I'm a collection of carbon atoms and neurons and other things coming together, and what I do is completely meaningless and pointless. But what God says is, no, it's not meaning. What you are has a purpose, and what you are means something to somebody else. They interpret ideas, value, actions they are associated with you. So you see a picture of Robin, and you think, yeah, that's a person. You hear Robin speak, and you very quickly associate with Robin social justice and care for people, and all the things that he spoke about last week. So it becomes a symbol of what you really are. And then when in the gospel today, Jesus in his entire life is trying to explain to us, this is what God means. This is what it means to follow God. This is what you should ascribe to God. The compassion, the ability to make a whole meal out of a few crumbs and still have leftovers because he's so abundant. The ability to love people. So when we say the meaning of life, we're saying, well, what defines our life? How do we see ourselves? How do we want others to see us? Not always the same thing. How does God see us, which is how we really are, which psalmists talk about that quite a lot as well, that you can't escape from God, you can't hide what you're really like from God. He knows that. So how do we help people understand what our meaning is to other people, what our meaning is to God, what our meaning is to ourselves as well, and have some real value there. And then, but that changes. The overall purpose might stay the same throughout our whole lives. If you start as a Christian and die as a Christian, but in between that, goals and objectives and meanings change. I guess the most obvious example is when you become a parent. Your meaning to people around you changes. Your meaning something different to your children, to other people. And when you change job or stop being a student or stop being employed or so on, lots of things change around what do I mean to other people, because especially if the meaning has come from something about being at school with your friends or doing your homework or the type of job that you do and how that works. And these times of disruption are hard, because often the reinventing process means going back to, well, what's really our purpose, and how do I go and achieve that, and what is my meaning in this new environment I found myself to other people. And the third bit of the connection is, well, also when you go through those changes of school to university or university to job or job to retirement, or many of the connections that we have day by day, those sort of common things that link us to other people, they change as well. So that whole thing of meaning, purpose, connection all gets thrown up in the air and altered and needs some thought. So ultimately, going back round in full circle, I start to wonder if that isn't really what church is all about. It's our safe space where we can be with God to work out what is our goal and objective as individuals and collectively to achieve that purpose of glorifying God. What is the meaning we have to each other? We value each other, we respect each other, we can give ourselves and others a sense of belonging to come and be in this place and have a meaning. And we can give connection both within ourselves and that kind of repeated connection that becomes relationships and with other people as well to come in. So I spent all morning figuring that out, and then realised that actually St. Paul had got there first in his letter to the Ephesians, which is also in this. So he lays it out very simply, in fact. So first of all, I bow my knees before the Father, from whom every family on heaven and on earth takes its name. And I pray that he might grant that you are strengthened in your inner being with power through his Spirit. So here's the purpose, to bow before God. Here's the meaning: to worship God and to come through that, and that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith as you are being rooted and grounding in love, the connection, the ability to give value to other people and to ourselves, and that we comprehend with length and breadth and height and the love of God that surpasses knowledge, so we're keeping on that path of learning who God is and constantly working out how we add wisdom to other people and how we become wise ourselves to meet the psalmist's need. And then to show the love of Christ and to connect with people as we do that. And then finally, that his power in us doing that can accomplish much more than we can do it by ourselves, just by Googling what is meaning and purpose of life. So, St. Paul got there first. Sorry, all that work this morning, and all I had to do was read the epistle and think about it. Life is simple sometimes. Amen.
Amen.
Let's sing and pray with whatever you have.